this topic is how does mortality motivate you? And I have to admit that when we did come up with this topic, I did not imagine moderating it myself. Yeah, this conversation, but we felt it was really important to get folks talking about something that I think most people are not comfortable discussing in public. Yeah. And so my first question to each of you, sorry, and I should really introduce each of you. So we have Troy Hadeed on the end, known yogi, I'm sure among many other things.
Student of yoga.
Student of yoga. Thank you, Troy. We have Lou Lyons, who's a musician.
Student of music.
Are you a retired attorney?
I wouldn't say retired.
Okay, not retired.
Yeah.
But you will say attorney. Okay.
Putting it to use differently.
Yeah. Exactly. And so we have Barbara Jenkins, of course, well-known writer, author, prize-winning.
I think I'll have to also join everybody with you because it's an ongoing process. So learning still. Yes.
And I think that should set up really the tone of this afternoon's conversation, right? So the question I want to start out with is, when did the notion of your individual mortality become real to each of you? And Barbara, maybe I should start with you.
Well, because it's impending.
No, I just imagine that it would have occurred to you a much longer time before. You've had some head start, I think.
I've had lots of head starts. I have actually watched somebody very near to me die, so that I'm aware that death happens, but it still happens to other people. So this week, I was at the funeral of a cousin who was born the month I turned 21. So it's real. I don't know when I first became aware, maybe when I was 11, and I was called out of the classroom by a nun to say, your mother wants you to come home. And when I went home, I was told that my grandmother had died. I think that's the first death I remember. But it was her mortality. Didn't know the word then. It wasn't anything to do with me, except that I had lost somebody whom I love very much. I don't think anybody really believes that they're going to die. Like I said, it's happening to other people all the time.
And I do want to ask you, you're known, your story as a writer is known as you really taking off at the age of 70 or so. Was there something...
Long time ago.
Was there something that precipitated that for you? Did you get to a point, because I imagine this is something you had with you and in you for some time. What would have compelled you to take that bold step at that point in time?
Okay, should we ask the others when did they first feel mortal? And then it gives me a little time to think about how I should phrase an answer to something to which I have not given any thought.
Got it. Not a problem. So let's shift to Troy.
Sometimes I still doubt my mortality sometimes, I think, because I think mortality, if we could really grasp the bigger picture, is somewhat of an illusion and a gift at the same time. Somewhat of both, right? To answer your question, I think I remember many years ago being a teenager and being asked, well, how long I wanted to live. And my reply was 125. And when asked, well, why? I would say, well, that's how long it takes to change the world. Now I realize it'll actually take a lot longer than that. But I think personally I've just become really comfortable with mortality. Because I've I guess through practice of yoga and non-attachment and that scope of works realized that we are part of something way bigger. And science has proven that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So to look at mortality as an end, I think is an absolute illusion. More rite of passage onto something else. But I don't believe there's actual any end at all involved in it, more like a shedding of a layer. And I think when you take that view on it, it makes death and mortality a lot easier to slide into,
Lou?
Wow. I guess anybody who really knows me may describe me as a morbid person, which is very funny that I was chosen for this topic. I give I give death a lot of thought. Always have, and I guess it is because I've always had near brushes with death personally, but never fearfully. As a boy, my mother would tell me that when I was born, I was consecrated. I was given back to where I came from. Never questioned the fullness of that. I just kind of trusted that when I came into this plane, I came with a purpose, and I hope that I would be around until that purpose is materialized. But death has always been a looming thought. It has always been an idea that would invite itself into my brain. I wouldn't sit and ask to think about it. It would just be there. And throughout my childhood, there were times when, mortality visited me and I would beat the odds. So even in my memories of life, I have to confront mortality and death.
And I'm wondering, Barbara, you're hearing the accounts of two people who I think their worldviews seem to jive somewhat in terms of, their place in this life and what they have to offer and what more there is even beyond this plane. And I'm wondering if at any point, perhaps on your own journey, you would have come to like a similar realization.
Right, so the existential question about mortality, okay, but the philosophical approach to mortality that both of you touched upon. Perhaps in my own case, it would have had to come from religion, and upbringing as a Catholic, where you've got the idea that you have to spend your life being good, following commandments and things like that, so that when Judgment Day comes, you can give an account of yourself to earn your place in heaven, or otherwise, in Catholicism of my childhood, you go to purgatory, where you work your way through what you've done wrong to graduate to heaven, or if you died in mortal sin, you go to hell. Well, since that was the foundation of my religious belief or philosophical belief, and I abandoned it that very early in my adult life. I think once I'd left Trinidad for the first time when I was 20, I shared a lot of what I had picked up in the first 20 years, and very easily shared Catholicism and the beliefs of Catholicism. But I didn't take on any new philosophy to replace it. And I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint everybody by saying I've just been sort of going along from 20 to now with no lodestar, no North Star to guide me, no awareness of mortality that you seem to have carried a long time, no concept of this is a layer that will be shared, and like sort of an onion life, I suppose, another layer is exposed when that one is shared. I haven't replaced it by anything, and I haven't felt the want somehow. I haven't felt a lack. It's not that I don't know that these ideas exist, because I read a lot, but I haven't taken any on board as a personal philosophy of life.
I feel like, sure, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I just want to. So, Barbara, I listen to you speak, and I'm in complete awe. Because to me, you're saying you haven't found a philosophy and you haven't found anything to fill that gap or that void. And I'm hearing you speak, and I'm like, but you have. I'm like, this is it, Barbara. Because You know, as I sit down to listen to you speak, my life purpose is to listen to you speak. And now when Lou speaks, my life purpose is to listen to Lou speak. And it's to be absolutely present in that moment and experience life without a plan or a sketch. And hearing you speak, that's exactly what you've been doing, Barbara, and that's amazing. So you may not realize it, but hearing you speak, I'm like, man, she have it figured out, yeah?
There you go.
Well, you figured it out, Louis. Now I know that I've found it.
You know, lately I've lost a few people, not necessarily very close to me, but one in particular last year, my grandmother of 94, nearly 94 years old. But then a few other people around me who, you know, have shaped part or been part of that critical period of your adult life when you're finding yourself. And so I have found that when those kinds of losses happen, even if they're not necessarily near and dear to me, it does sort of give me a new perspective or renew my perspective. So when I think about it motivating me, I would think of what are the things that I'm wasting time on, you know, feeling shitty about or being shitty about, you know, and I'm wondering how do you then interpret and respond to the experience of death in your lives, death of people close to you or not that close to you?
We could say shit.
Oh, I just said it twice.
Just double checking. That is precisely the reason why I am not caught up on ideas about the afterlife. It's precisely that. It's afterlife. That's no concern of mine. My concern is life. And so my understanding of death, my appreciation of death, is not to have me in some bogged down mode or some loathsome attitude. It's to inspire me to get the most out of life. I often think about death like a battery. You know, I've seen people get angry at their phone and kind of toss it when they're dead. Because in that moment, it's of no use to them. There's no Instagram, there's no WhatsApp, there's no nothing. So, phone dead, yes? And that's how we kind of treat people in our memories when they die. Kind of discard them. But if you truly understand that, you know, with a little charge, you're good to go again, you wouldn't pelt it like that. You'd say, I'm looking for a charge, and you take care of it. And that's how I view death. Death is something I don't understand. All I know that there's a transition from this plane to another. Again, I've had early ideas from religion that I cannot verify. I've read books. I've heard philosophies that I cannot verify. What I can verify is I'm here in this moment, sharing it with 3 awesome human beings, and I don't know if this moment will ever get a repeat. So I'm going to juice this moment for all it has. The same way when the phone have, you know, battery, we'll use it, we'll expend it. And that's how I approach life. I cannot approach life half-heartedly or with any kind of timidness because I don't know when my battery will die. So I'm going to use it to the best of my ability now. If that answers the question.
Well,
anyway.
do you recall a specific instance or specific passing or transition that has affected you in a profound way where you perhaps decided, okay, I'm going to do X differently?
I've had moments of affirmation. Who I am is who I always remembered myself to be. This could get a little gory, yeah? That's why I shouldn't say no tolerance. I have very little tolerance for artists, primarily musicians, who fill their work with violence. Because I often question, do you know what it is to be intimate with violence? Do you know what it, and I have had moments that I can't count, I'm running out of fingers. I know what it is to see someone stabbed and to see people frantically trying to stop blood from gushing out of a human being. I know what is the scent of a flesh wound or the inside of somebody when they've just been shot. Smells like a fart, but only 10 times more memorable. And I'm getting emotional recounting these moments. But these things that I've experienced don't make me afraid. They don't make me timid. They don't turn me into a coward. They reaffirm that that didn't happen to me in that moment because I am here for a purpose. I don't know if that would be my fate, but should that be my fate, I shouldn't meet that fate unprepared. Or my final moments shouldn't be one of questioning or regret. I want that moment to meet me feeling, a little bit satisfied. My last thought should be, yeah, at least Muhammad has some music to put out that we didn't get to put out yet. We have about 10 songs unreleased. We have a whole album we're sitting on. I'll be good.
Nice.
That's my approach.
But Lou, you also have a daughter.
Yes, I do.
And so how do you fit that in there when you rationalize or contemplate your mortality?
This is a hard question. No, I'm reading a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves. If you are a woman out there and you haven't read that book yet, you should. If you are a man with women in your life, and all men should have some woman in their life, whether it's a cousin, a daughter, a mother, significant other, you should read that book. There's a chapter in that book designated to rage and how rage is a tool. It's not something that you should get rid of, but it's something that you should learn to manage, tame, live with, call upon when necessary. And the author of the book manages to teach and convey these very important life lessons using stories. One of the most important stories to me in that book, there's this young husband coming back from a war that has, mashed him up badly. And he's going home to a very young, beautiful wife who has not been to the war. She's far from the war. She doesn't understand what war is. And he refuses to come into the house. He prefers to live in the forest still and sleep on the ground. When she brings food, he kicks it away and I don't want to eat. He wants to inflict punishment on himself. And so she's told of a seer woman who can help her. And she went to the seer woman, and the woman said, I can't help you, but you need to get a single strand of hair from the moon crescent bear. And so she goes through this entire journey to get to this bear, through forests, up mountains, and every challenge she went through, she thanks the challenge. She thanks the forest, parting the leaves so that she could pass through. She thanks the rocks for not falling down on her, and she gets up to the mountain. She finds a cave and she runs into the cave and she falls asleep. And she's awoken by the sound of this, very loud, earth-shaking sound, and it's the bear. But she walked with extra food, and for the next 2 days, she would leave food for the bear, and the bear would come, and she would retreat. And every day she would advance a bit closer, carrying food closer to the bear. And she went through all of that, and she reasoned with the bear, let me just pluck one hair, please, because I know I want to experience the love that I experienced before again. And the bear agrees and gives her one hair. She goes back to the seer woman. And the seer woman says, yeah, this is a hair from the bear. And she just throws it into the fire. He said, but that was my one and only chance. And she said, no. All that experience that you went up to the mountain to get this hair, go back to your husband and continue what you were doing before. With my daughter, I am preparing her for life, not death. And I'm preparing her for life by letting her know all of these things that are happening to you, you can't stop half of them from happening to you. You can't prevent them from happening to you. What you can do is, you can create a world in your head where you take these experiences and learn to master them. Because your head is your dojo, your head, your brain, your heart, your soul, that's your gym. That's where you go and you do your push-ups before you come out into the day and take the day. And so by learning to control all these visceral things is how we prepare for that.
Got it. Troy, so Barbara? Does that mean you're ready to answer the question I asked earlier?
I'm just preparing myself. That was wonderful. Thank you.
It really was.
Thank you.
You're
Troy.
What's the question again?
I was coming to you, but then when I heard Barbara exhale, I was wondering whether she was just ready to answer her
No,
question. But it's okay.
it's too trite to follow that.
Oh,
So let's
come
hear
on,
from, let's
Babs.
hear from, let's hear from, let's hear from a you.
Is that we're talking about?
Lots of self-effacing people on this panel. Troy, yeah, I'm sure that there are things that Lou just described that you can obviously relate to.
Yeah.
Tell
Well,
us.
for me, sometimes when I talk about death, I feel like somewhat of a hypocrite. Because I do feel very comfortable with death, but I have never experienced a loss of someone that close to me. And I will at some point, clearly, it must happen. So my relationship with death and loss of physical body, I think, is a lot easier than it is to most. But I am really inspired by the fact that one day I will shed this body. And that's why I mentioned earlier, it is a gift. Because imagine if we had endless amount of time to do what we needed to do. Knowing us as Trini, we think to be in any hurry, you know? And I remember one day Lou walked into yoga studio and he left a message that he wanted to meet with me urgently. And this is before we really had any close relationship we knew about. And the first thing Lou did when he walked in the room was said, Troy, you're running out of time. And this is why mortality is a gift. Because, we have a choice. We could live life like we're not going to die. Or we could wake up and realize we have a timeline. So, sometimes we'll say, if you had a week to live or a day to live, how would you spend that time? Generally, somebody might say, well, I get in Maracas, I quit in my job, I get in traveling world, I get and get a hard smoke or a hard drink or whatever it is, right? I get to live life. Right? Surface. So I invite people to really contemplate, if today was my last day to live, this was my last impact I had on the world and the people around me, what choices would I make? What conversations would I have? What apologies would I deliver? What forgiveness would I open up to? But to really look at, what do I want the energy of my life to bring into the world? If I were to leave this body, and everyone is to forget my name, what energy and what healing do I want to leave behind? And I think if we take this cliche, live every day as if it were your last, and then we shift the perspective to that, instead of go jump out a plane and blow all your money and travel the world, really look at our relationships to see, if today was my last day to live, what relationships do I need to heal? Because I'm sure like a lot of us in Trinidad know, I know family members who don't talk to each other, best friends who don't talk to each other, mothers and sons and kids and brothers and sisters can't even speak to each other because they're angry because somebody do something. And I always love to point out that we have 7 billion people in the world. And every one of those people maybe have about, let's say, 20 really close relationships. And if we want to heal the world and we want to change the world, it's real simple, heal your relationships. I must heal my relationships. Because we all know we have relationships that are strained. And like Brother Lou said to me one day, you're running out of time. So what are we waiting on? And that is a gift of mortality. Because if we didn't have that, that's our mentality, So to me, mortality is a gift. And if we can take that perspective on mortality, we could begin to shift the energy in our world and our society a little bit quicker, and wake up to it a little bit more.
Barbara, how does that point of relationships land with you?
I want to go back to something else about,
Sure.
I want to take you up on all the different things you said that a person with a sense of today's your last day would do. And I'm thinking, we are here, the 4 of us. Did we think today might be our last day when we decided we would sit here and talk? If we knew it was our last day, is this what we would choose to do? I think we live each day as it comes because we don't think it is our last day. It's because we don't think of it like that we just do the things we do. If I thought today was my last day, would I be here? I didn't wake up this morning thinking, what if today is my last day? Which fences would I mend? What would I do to leave us a legacy? How would I want to be thought of? No, I woke up this morning thinking, I have to get to the market. Again, I've got to get back. I'm teaching a class the whole day from 9 to 3. Then I've got to rush down here. If I had woken up thinking, is today my last day? I think I would be crippled every day. I wouldn't know what to do. But I wake up thinking, oh yes, I have 4 or 5 things in my diary. Let me get on and do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm thinking today is a day of life.
Yes.
Not today may be my last day.
Right.
Today is a day of life. What life things am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're saying the same thing, but just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to. I don't want to invite someone to actually wake up every day and say, "Oh my God, today's the last day. What are you gonna do?" But to really look at how we contribute to society and being present. And it's very clear to me, Barbara, that whether you realize it or not, you're a master of being present and living life in the moment. Which is why when something like that to you would be, I don't want to think today's my last day. I want to live.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Lou?
I want to draw an interesting parallel. Because I woke up like today was my last day. Let's think of death sort of like success. You never know when it will come. But if you are purposeful enough, you want success to come. You're doing everything in your power to will it into your direction.
How we define success.
Your place of zen, your place of accomplishment, your place of contentment. Nothing else can disturb you once you're at that point. I'm looking at that as success. But to get to that point isn't some magical metamorphosis. It's a series of small and incremental choices that you choose to make or not make that disturbs the universe to conspire with you or against you. Muhammad and I talk about it all the time. It can be something as simple as getting a call when you're terribly tired to go and meet somebody who have an idea for a song. Or meeting somebody who, they not yet have an idea fleshed out, but they want you to help them out with it. And you didn't go because you're tired. Or you didn't go because you have to rush home because you tell somebody you'll be there at 7 to eat dinner. And how you approach these everyday, seemingly mundane choices kind of hammers you into a bullet that no longer needs to make the decisions with extreme mindfulness. Your life kind of just picks up momentum and you end up doing what you always want to do. Yeah. I'm here because I want to be here. Even if, it would have had to take something real tragic for me not to be here today. Because I said yes to doing this because this is right in line with what I want to be doing. And once we figure out what we want to be doing, even if it becomes a mundane routine lifestyle, somewhere in that is still something that you want to be doing. And that to me is living today like it's your last because you want to be doing it.
I have the good fortune of being part of a creative community like everybody here, I think everybody around this table. And some of the more senior people in that community who I talk with, a few of them express a kind of angst about doing a certain amount of work because they're very, very clear that they're staring at death pretty much, right? They're just waiting. But they're not just waiting. They're actively going out and pursuing things. But there is an angst with which they express that and, the compulsion to go out and work every day, regardless of the physical pain or whatever they have to endure. And as creatives, all of you, I'm wondering if, you've all pretty much explained how you live, not necessarily with death at the fore, but just that you care to live in the fullness and the presence of this moment. But is there that one thing that you feel some measure of angst about that may not happen or could not happen, that you're afraid? Is there any such thing that means so much to you that you're afraid you would not be able to do? And that is that one thing you have to achieve. You have to get it done. You have to get it out of you, whether it's a song, a message, a particular healing you would like to deliver, a particular kind of work or intervention. Barbara, I don't know if there's a work that you have in mind that you would like to just give birth to.
Okay, well, I've avoided the question.
I realized, I've come right back.
So I can't avoid any longer. You've been very patient with me, my dear Ardene.
You'll take that sip of water now.
I came by writing accidentally. It was never something that I thought I wanted to do. Actually, when I was a little girl, if anybody said, what would you like to be when you grow up? I'd say, I want to be a doctor. Well, I wasn't, because there was one scholarship for girls when I did what was higher certificate, and I wasn't the one who got it. I was second. So I didn't get to be what I wanted to be. Eventually, I got a different scholarship to go and study a subject to come back and teach. So that I found myself in a direction where I didn't think I was going to go, but I did it. I spent my whole lifetime teaching, and I find myself continuing to do that. How did I come by writing? By chance. Two friends wanted to form a writing group. They felt that they might be at loggerheads if they didn't have a third person. I was idly doing absolutely nothing, and they said, all right, come and join us. And it was delightful. I loved it. And they said, oh, yeah, what you're doing is pretty decent. Show it to somebody, which I did. So by accident, I got into teaching, did it, and loved it. By accident, I got into writing, as you would probably say, it was there waiting for me to do. And I absolutely love it. I don't do enough of it. I let life distract me all day long. I'm always open to somebody phoning to say, oh, there's a this, there's a that, let's go. I'm at everything. Why am I not at home writing? Even though it's something I love doing and which works out pretty well for me. I think I'm just at the beck and call of the universe, and I drift along doing things that I like doing. And when I get the time not doing those things, I write, which I also love doing.
Fantastic.
See,
And it came as a gift. Who was talking about gifts? Life is a gift. Mortality is a gift. Writing came as a gift, just as teaching came as a surprising gift too. Yeah.
We have just about 6 minutes left.
Oh.
Maybe. No, that's okay. You can just tell us.
Yeah, for me, I can't say I have any plan to say or agenda to say I have to achieve this before my time is up. I think for me, it's just about showing up in every moment. Like, how do I show up in life? Every single moment. And I think if, Lou mentioned mindfulness, if we're mindful enough, and we can be really mindful doing nothing, like there's no agenda to achieve. Like I could sit back and be really mindful and observe life and learn and take it in. And I think for me, there's no agenda. I want to know that in every interaction, every relationship, every opportunity, I show up from a place of love, from a place of forgiveness, from a place of compassion, and that I influence people around me continuously in that way, in a positive way. And there are times in life when I don't, and I fall short. And committed to the practice of living yoga, I see that. And that is sadness for me, that point when I say, you know what, I know better. I should have done better. So next time I will do better. And I think I just want to know that before my time comes, that I show up in every moment, every conversation, every relationship as genuinely, authentically from a place of love as I possibly can. And do the best I can do with what I know. That's it. And
I'm learning how to live, Thanks.
If I could do that before I leave this body, then I could look back on my life and say, yeah, I did my best.
Yeah.
You know?
That I mean, I guess I'll have to phrase it in the context of what I find myself doing now, and what I find myself doing now is music. But it's not about music. It's about connections. There's something in theater and screen acting called destroying the fourth wall. It is the reason why we love Meryl Streep. It's the reason why we love Denzel. They have a way of destroying that fourth wall that separates them from the audience. So you feel as though there are no cameras, there are no lens in between. You are in the room, you're in the scenario, and you're there present with them. And that comes from attaching yourself to a level of truth that is undeniable to you. So whatever you pour that truth into, might be a different shape, might be a different container, but it's still truth. The container doesn't dilute it. That's why I'm chasing in my lifetime. I want to find more of the truth that I am finding, so that it takes less time for me to connect with people, and I can connect to people more powerfully. So it doesn't matter where I go, who I speak to, who I sing to, whoever I touch. I just want to be able to leave a lasting, permanent, and genuine connection. I don't want to do anything by mistake.
Well,
I may never get it, but that's what I'm chasing before I die. Before we die. We all will die.
I think the conversation around mortality is turned into conversation around life.
Yes.
absolutely. Well, it was about how it motivates us, right?
Yeah.
So it's clear to me that everybody here has a very optimistic and positive outlook, and I think we knew that going in. I didn't get the impression that any of you was sitting down.
Can I beg for
wallowing.
2 minutes?
Sure. Two, I'll move
No,
two.
no, yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, one.
I just want to leave everybody with one of the most powerful quotes that has been my beacon finding my way. It's a quote by W.E.B. Du Bois. He said, "How shall integrity face oppression? What shall honesty do in the face of deception? Decency in the face of insult? Self-defense before blows? How shall desert and accomplishment meet despising, detraction and lies? What shall virtue do to meet brute force?" There are so many answers, and so contradictory, and such differences for those on the one hand who meet questions similar to this once a year or once a decade, and those who face them hourly and daily.
Thank you. Barbara, how you feel? Inspired?
Oh, very much. I
motivated?
mean, I have purpose and an attitude and a philosophy and an outlook. Hey, I'm learning. Thanks.
Barbara said she was very tired when she got here.
Oh, I'm
And-
invigorated.
But I see
I'm
that.
Yeah.
I mean, this
energized.
is not the person who showed up here about an hour. or so.
Yeah, having
Look at what
spent-
talking
having
about
spent-
that does.
Right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you all very much, Troy,
Yeah.
Lou,
Thank
and
you,
Barbara.
Ardene.
And of course,
Thank
the
you, Barbara.
audience.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Barbara.
Lou. Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much,
Troy. Thank you,
And
Ardene.
of course, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. All right, so we get ready for the next panel.